This story occurred about 30 years ago when I was in the first grade. The winter that year was a cold, unforgiving winter. Many children in my school got sick. One of them caught the flu and it quickly spread throughout the school. Like a mini pandemic. Luckily, I escaped the worst of it, but I was happy that the school was closed. Then one night I developed a fever and began to feel sick. The next morning I went to see my family doctor and was diagnosed with the flu. When I returned home, I took the medicine that the doctor prescribed me and lay down on my bed. Unfortunately, the symptoms began to grow stronger. My fever got higher and higher with each passing hour. Both of my parents had gone to work and I started to feel very anxious. I waited and prayed to feel better as the time passed, but my fever got so high that I eventually lost consciousness. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed. When my mother came home from her part-time job, she found me lying there and called an ambulance. I had an 4 needle in my arm. "Are you awake? You sounded like you were having nightmares. Your fever is very high, you'll be staying in the hospital for a few days," my mother told me. The word hospitalization made me very uneasy. What, I have to stay here on my own? I don't want to. I'm scared. I want to go home. I complained to my mother. It was already dark outside. "Don't worry, I'm going to stay here with you. Is there anything I can bring you?" My mother patted my head. She was very reassuring. "I'm thirsty. Can you bring me something to drink? And also, can you bring me the teddy bear that's on my bed at home?" I asked. "Okay, I will bring your teddy bear," she said as she left the room. I couldn't wait for my mom to return with my teddy bear. As I waited, whatever medication was being given to me through the fourth seemed to be taking effect. I began to feel more comfortable and dozed off with a blanket over my head. After a while, I heard a click. I had a vague feeling that it might be my mother returning, but I was too weary to wake up. I felt a breeze on the blanket and a hand on my cheek. The air was cold outside and it reflected on the temperature of the hand. It stroked my cheek slowly, but the icy cold gave me goosebumps. "Mom, your hands are cold," I tried to say, but I couldn't find my voice. The hand continued to stroke my cheek slowly and deliberately. I tried my best to speak, but as the hand continued to stroke my cheek, my mouth gradually became unable to move. Not just one hand, but 2, 3, stroking my head and back. The stroked area became stiff and immobile. My heart pounded with fear. I couldn't even open my eyes. I tried desperately to get moving and go get help, but it was immensely difficult. I couldn't believe how heavy I felt. I began to feel more hands around my neck. The hands reached around from both sides and began to strangle me. Little by little, they tightened around my neck. In desperation, I put all of my efforts into moving my fingertips. I managed to move them slightly. Something touched my hand. It was the teddy bear I had asked my mother for. I grasped the teddy bear as hard as I could and shouted with all of my strength, "Stop it!" Right then, the hand seemed to disappear and the stiffness of my body returned to normal. My breathing came faster and my heart was pounding vigorously. "What's wrong?" I turned around at the sound of the familiar voice and saw my mother. "Mom, let's go home. There's something wrong here." I pleaded with her. I begged her, but she said, "I can't, it's late, but I will stay here with you." She stroked my cheek. Her hand was very cold. I knew it had been my mother who was stroking me, but I figured I must have been having some crazy dream because my fever was so high. She tried to get me to go back to sleep till morning, but I turned on the light and sat up in my bed. It could have been a dream, but I was worried that if I fell asleep, the same thing would happen to me. I decided to stay awake till morning. Early the next day, my mother left the hospital room without saying a word. Shortly after, she came running back into the room. She started telling me about the ambulance ride we had taken last night after she found me at home. I couldn't figure out what she was trying to tell me. "Did you know this hospital doesn't allow chaperones? I left you the teddy bear so that you wouldn't be lonely when you woke up." "What? I can't have a chaperone? But you were here until a little while ago. What's going on? Who the hell was that?" I did feel that she was acting differently from how my mom normally is. The way she spoke, her voice, her personality. I downplayed it at the time, but it felt strange. "Mom, let's go home. Please. I want to go home." I pulled on my mother's arm and pleaded desperately. She could tell I was very frightened, so she spoke to the doctor to let me leave the hospital. When I was ready to leave, I felt that light breeze on my back again. I grabbed my teddy bear and left without looking back, stuck to my mother's side. A few months later, I heard the news about the suspicious death of a small child at that same hospital.